This is Shawn Irwin, your youth director with Darts Ontario. Welcome to episode 9 of Darts Ontario Let's Talk Darts. I wanted to talk to our youth players from past and present to see how they got into darts and their story. I'm with Connor Watt, formerly of the Brantford Youth Dart League, who just finished his last season as a youth player. Connor is also the 2020 Seniors Doubles Champion with his partner, Jarrett Knock. All right, Connor, thank you so much for taking the time to answer some questions so the dart community can get to know more about Connor Watt. So how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks. How are you, Shawn?
I'm doing great. So thanks for taking this time. And let's go into a little bit of history of your darts. And when did you start playing darts? How old were you?
When I officially started playing, I was probably 6 or 7 years old down at my trailer, kind of a family thing. Just kind of started throwing. I was actually taught to chalk before I was even allowed to throw.
Wow, you don't hear that too often.
Yeah, usually people will just let people or their kids kind of pick up the darts, start throwing, learn as they get a little bit better, I guess, as they're able to hit the board, and then go from there and actually learn the game at that point. But I was taught to score and watch my family play first and then learn from there.
So you started just having fun, but then eventually you got very competitive. Who inspired you to do darts competitively?
Honestly, it was my grandparents, really. My grandfather really saw that I had a knack for things. I was starting to improve pretty quickly. And he just kind of pushed me from there, said, you should join a league, get involved. It was a pretty social aspect as well from there. And it taught me a lot of discipline. So it was nice to be able to get into that and just start moving forward with it.
Now, when did you start playing in the youth dart league? Because you started off with Brantford, and that's the only league you've been in.
So I started at the South Brant Legion. I think it would have been 2012 or 2013. That was the only year I didn't make provincials. And I was still a tyke at that time, so I only played doubles. We came one round away from qualifying to go to the Ontarios, and then I went straight into junior from there.
Now, how often do you practice during the season and during the off season as well?
During the season, I usually try and practice for about an hour every day. Off season, relatively around the same. Maybe it turns into about 3-4 times a week. A little bit less involvement, work kind of takes over other things in my life, kind of take a bit more priority as well there.
Yeah, there's always different priorities, especially being a youth. School is always important, and try to make time to play darts with going to school and doing your homework.
For sure, for sure.
So darts is, it's always fun playing games, but how do you make practice fun?
Honestly, just finding variety in games was always a big thing for me. My favorite thing was practicing doubles, which a lot of people find frustrating. A lot of people end up having issues and struggling with it, but I thought it was the most interesting thing to practice, and even just around the world was the best thing for me. And going into 121 and doing 170 10 times every time I practiced, just kind of throwing in variety, changing up a little bit every so often was what really helped me with practicing.
Now, how do you stay focused? You got a big game coming up, maybe a big opponent that you know very well, a good player. We're going to go into your provincial times later on, but how do you stay focused during that big game?
Honestly, the biggest thing for me has to be just focusing on me and my game. Don't focus on your opponent or what they're shooting, because when you play a game, you're playing yourself and you're playing the board. It's a race to zero, but if you're focused on your opponent's score the whole time, you're never going to be focused on yourself and playing your own game. If you let your opponent get in your head, you're not going to ever play to your fullest potential.
Darts is a very emotional game. So when you see somebody shoot, say, 180, you've got to come right back. And how do you stay focused with that, with ignoring your opponent's shot?
It can be a little bit daunting for sure, but I had to teach myself over time. I knew that I could personally hit those big scores. It was just knowing that I had to drive back just as hard. Somebody hits an 80 or 100, I need to hit 140, 180, 100 myself. Because if you're always neck and neck, it's just a matter of, I know if I can get down to that double, I'm not going to miss.
Now, what's the best part of competing for you, and what's the best part of the game of darts for you?
I think it's always been the social aspect for sure. I really enjoy competing at a high level, but I've made so many great friendships from playing darts over the years. Jason Farnan, for example, has become one of my best friends. spend a lot of time with him, practice with him probably twice a week. It's opened up a lot of opportunities in my life to meet a lot of new people, and just some social avenues was really great to get into there.
Jason's mentioned you during his interview about all the times you guys practice as well. So that's great to see that you build such a friendship with dart players from all over the province.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Now, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. So actually, even last year at the Find a Part tournament, I believe, it's the final part of the Waterloo Open, we got the opportunity to play teams with Devin Gross, Jason Farnan, and Braden Hall. We were all really excited to be able to play with each other. Up until that point, we all knew each other pretty well. We got to know each other a lot better, formed a really nice bond with those guys. It was great to go to Provincials, see them, and some of my other friends that were also all pretty good players, I gotta say.
Well, that's great. Now, with your match, if it doesn't go very well, and you got another match coming up, how do you stay focused and concentrating on that next match? So you're playing a round robin game, and maybe two come out of that division. How do you stay focused after maybe losing a match?
Right. So the most important thing to keep in mind is even if you just lost your match, there's always the next match coming up, and that's got to be your main focus. No matter what happened last time, if you won or you lost, you should be treating it as though you're at zero, and every time you win, you're just going up. If you lose, leave it in the past. Don't let it affect your next game. You've got to look past the negatives and onto the positive things.
That's some great advice for so many people. So thank you. Let's look back at your Darts Ontario history. If you go to the website at www.dartsontario.ca, you'll see all the results from the youth and adults from past. So in 2014 and 2015, you finished the top 4 at your zones. In 2016, you finished second. But in 2017, 18, 19, and 2020, that's 4 years in a row, you finished first. At Provincials in singles, 2018 and 2019, you finished top 8. And in 2020, you finished top 4. At the 2020 Provincials, you also made stage for the first time, and you finished first in Ontario for doubles. Tell us about that experience getting on stage and taking the crown for senior doubles.
So honestly, going in, I know that doubles was all about fun, but doubles has always been one of my favorite things to play. I've always loved going to tournaments playing singles and doubles. It's just as competitive to me. I think it brings a whole nother aspect to the game when you throw yourself in with a partner. So the opportunity to finally work my way up and go all the way to stage with Jarrett there was absolutely phenomenal. It kind of really brought me to my dream, no matter if I wanted to make it in singles or doubles. I always wanted to make stage, and that was my last year. I was ecstatic to be able to have the opportunity to go on stage and play in front of all of my friends.
Tell us about the finals. It was with Devin and Cassandra from the Kitchener Youth League. Tell us about that experience playing them, because Devin's one of your friends as well.
Right. So a little bit of, I know Jason kind of touched on this, having to put your emotions to the side when you're playing a friend. So Devin's someone who's pretty close to me. I've also practiced quite a few times with Devin. Having to put to the side that he was my friend and really play him just as another player was another aspect. But it was interesting. It was still lighthearted and everything. We kept things easy going because before the match, we actually talked. We were joking, saying, okay, everyone, we got to start with 20s, make sure we don't put on too much of a show. And we all started with a 20 average on both sides. So it was nice to see everything stay kind of light at first there.
Well, this was your last Provincials and lots of competition during the singles events. Take us through the singles events on day 1 and day 2, right up to playing Braden Hall in the semifinals.
So day 1, even for sure, some stiff competition. I knew when I went into seniors from juniors, it was a pretty big jump in skill. No matter what, on your day 1, no matter who you are, you can lose. You could be the number 1 from last year, and you could end up at the bottom of your pod the next year. You've got to take everything very seriously and push through. Second day, first round, I ended up with Zach Van Vliet in my pod, a phenomenal player, the other number 3 this year with Provincials there. Again, another somewhat daunting moment. He's another great player. Just had to push emotions to the side, keep going. Top 8 once I got to that point. I know I'd been there 2 years in a row, and that was the point I wanted to break through. My whole goal was I knew I was going to stage for doubles. I just needed to get past where I was in singles, and I was going to be happier than I'd ever been with my darts career. And I got myself to that point, and unfortunately lost to Braden, but he's a phenomenal player, and not a lot I could have done there.
Braden's played some amazing darts and doing a lot of online darts as well, and just keeps on improving. So definitely very proud of you, Connor. You've worked really hard over the years to get where you did, and you did it in the final year. You got that close, and you beat your goal. So that's good. But
Thank you.
what are your goals for the new season coming up and what are you going to do to work towards them?
My goal for men's provincials, hopefully moving into the next year, I want to be able to qualify. My main goal is to push through and trying to get into the second round. I know I'm probably not going to go in and absolutely break the game. That would be phenomenal if I could do that. But I know the reality of that. I'm going to have a couple of years. I'd probably get a practice play and push up on some of these other phenomenal men's players like Jim Long and Matt Campbell, Steve Warnock, all those kinds of guys out there. But yeah, I've got to say getting 2 provincials for the men's league is going to be my number one goal. And then from there, get to second round. And if I could do that, I'll be more than happy with my game.
That's great. You got lots of practice to do. And during COVID times right now, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but we just hope that things work out. So
For sure.
In the game of darts, there's so much calculating in your head. And you see guys and girls who grace the stage doing so well in darts, and they know their math so well. How have you been able to improve your game over the years with calculating in your head?
So from day one for me, math was always a huge thing. When I was starting to learn the game from my grandparents, when I started at South Brant, I remember it was about a 20-minute drive every time there and every time back. The whole 20 minutes there and back, I would have to sit and go over outs. It was always the small ones to start. I remember learning 90 like 5 times just because I was trying to get it through my head. And then I learned later on from my new coach, Henry Ruska there in the Brantford Youth Dart League, the proper way for me to go on 90 with 3 darts is 20-20 bull in his mind, right? That way, if you hit a single, you still leave him out. But always being on top of the math and just going from, okay, anything under 102, I should be setting up with these darts from 200 down to leave these outs was where I had to move from to understand setting up for darts.
Well, Henry's a great coach. He really knows his math. I've had some great conversations with him, especially at nationals in 2018. So yeah, you've learned a lot there. So, who are some of your biggest supporters while you play darts?
My biggest supporters, again, from the start, my grandparents have to be my number ones. They were always there for me. Any tournament I had to get to, they were taking me practice. Before I drove when I was young, every Sunday, my grandfather was taking me to practice. They would they paid for my sign-ups for youth league every year and everything. My mom's always been there for me, put up with me in the basement all the time, throwing my darts while she's trying to sleep. So appreciate her getting through all that. My whole family, even my sister and brother-in-law, have been huge supporters in the last couple of years for me, for sure.
That's great. Now, do you play any other sports, or have you played other sports during your youth time?
I was pretty involved in football. I played football for about 6 years. Won a couple championships undefeated in high school, which was pretty cool. I was a rugby player. Track and field, I was relatively avid athlete, but darts usually took the cake on that one, I'd say.
Now, besides sports, what other hobbies do you have?
Honestly, I don't get up to a whole lot other than darts and my other sports. I play a little bit of video games. I actually recently signed up for school in the last couple of months for firefighting, so I've been dedicating a lot of time for that. A lot of my time goes into trying to get into a volunteer program and finish up my schooling in that regard.
Good for you. This is always a fun question I like to ask the youth, but do you have a favorite opponent you love playing against? And if there's one player in the world you'd love to play against, who would that be and why?
My favorite opponent, that's tough. I'd probably say Trevor, honestly, because it was so back and forth for him and I for quite a while. I met him in a lot of tournaments that I didn't expect. I used to actually get pretty freaked out when I was a little bit younger about playing Trevor because I know he was a previous youth champion. That was always a little bit intimidating. for me, for any world-class player, I'd love to play, and this might sound weird because a lot of people aren't really big fans of him, but I like James Wade quite a bit. I'd love the opportunity to play against him. He's just got a lot of focus, and his outs are always phenomenal. He's always on top of them, and I aspire to be like that.
Always great playing against somebody who's been playing darts for a very long time. We always learn from those better players.
Exactly.
You mentioned Trevor, and hopefully Trevor watches this because his name's been mentioned a few times in interviews, so maybe we can get him on one of our shows.
Yeah, that would definitely be good.
Now, is there any other highlights of darts before this year's provincials for you?
Oh, that's tough to think about. Lots of smaller tournaments that I was either first place or in the top 3 normally. I started to play in some bigger men's league tournaments, got to some certain decent points, top 32, top 16 a few times. The Find Apart tournament was able to open up my first time being there, my debut with Jason. We won doubles, and then winning the blind draw there was pretty nice. But nothing necessarily too specific stands out. Actually, sorry. When I first got to join Legions, I got to play in the, I guess it would be the Southeastern Ontario zone. And I was able to be the #1 representative going out to the Ontario's Legions for that. So that was pretty exciting at that point in time, for sure.
That's a very nice highlight. And as we talk about the Find Apart tournament, Nicole and Chad have done a great job. And I love that they are very supportive of the youth program, and they have the youth events, and the youth can actually play against the adults as well. So hopefully we get more tournaments like that in the coming future.
For sure. It's always great for the youth to be able to play against the adults.
Yeah. Now, are you planning on playing in an adult league in person, or because of COVID right now, an online league?
So hopefully, I actually was part of a league last year during Provincials because I turned 19. I was able to play in a Brantford men's league before COVID. Unfortunately, it actually shut down our league this year, so we didn't even get into playoffs. But I'm hoping to return to that league this year. Maybe we'll go online, but I'm kind of waiting on that. Otherwise, there's a couple of other leagues around me. John Pig actually runs a league out in Norwich that I'm hoping that I can become part of at some point there.
Well, that'd be good. It's always great to play in some leagues. So
Exactly.
as we wrap this up, one more question. With all the experience you've had in youth darts, can you give some advice to the youth that are coming up to follow your footsteps?
My biggest advice is always going to be just never give up, no matter how hard things seem to be. And if you feel as though you're not improving, people can hit plateaus. Everybody's been there. I've hit that point. Again, I made top 4 for 2 years straight and stayed below that prior to. And then this year came out to win the doubles, come third in singles, and win the bursary. So I was more than happy to see all that training and all that time I put in just to pay off. So just never give up and always put in as much time as you can.
Well, thank you so much, Connor, for taking the time to answer some questions so the dart community can know more about yourself, and wish you luck in reaching your goals. And hopefully we see you at some tournaments and, of course, the adult provincials.
Thank you, Shawn. I appreciate the opportunity to come on here.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well.
I was great talking to Connor Watt. Going to miss seeing him at youth provincials, as I've seen him many times over the years, and wish him all the best to come to the adult program. Make sure you go to our website at www.dartsontario.ca to find out more information about our organization, and go to our Facebook page and make sure you like it so you get all the updates. Are you a current or former member of Darts Ontario Youth Program? If you would like to be on one of our episodes, please email me at youth@dartsontario.com. This is Shawn Irwin, your Darts Ontario Youth Director, and make sure you check out our next episode, episode 10 of Darts Ontario Let's Talk Darts. We will be talking with a young man who played last season for the first time in Darts Ontario, but he really made an impact at Legion Provincials. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.